Hey everyone, it's Desiree, and I am here with another, excuse me, simplicity this video. Now, the simplicity videos have taken a couple different turns. Now, again, for me, what I mean about simplicity is let the paper do the work. If you are a pattern paper person, and we hoard it because it's absolutely gorgeous and everything else, by all means, let that do the work. I am one that you don't need to have a sentiment to the front of the card. We, as paper crafters, when we create our cards, we do a lot of work to the front, whether it's ink blending, watercoloring, colored pencil, alcohol markers, all of these different techniques that are out there and that we use and feel comfortable with or keep trying, they take a lot of work. So sometimes, putting this bold sentiment or die cut in front of all of that work sometimes makes me nuts, because you're covering up all of that work. So that's okay. I'll move it to the inside. I'll put my die cut on the inside, one layer, or I'll stamp a sentiment on the inside. But just know this, you don't have to stamp anything. You can just write what you want to say inside the card. I mean, I have no problems. Happy birthday, enjoy your day, love always, best wishes. We can do that. And again, I'm not saying not to put a sentiment. I mean, by all means, it's personal preference. These are just my thoughts. So when it comes to the Simplicity series, yes, there are some tools that I do like to use. And the main one that I like to use when it comes to the Simplicity is a paper trimmer. That's your choice. A ruler, craft knife, or rotary cutter is perfectly fine. You can certainly use those items. What I also will use when it comes to my simplicity, and again, just a little bit of a recap, I will use, of course, my liquid adhesive and double-sided foam adhesive, whether that's tape, whether that's squares, or whether I use my fun foam if it's a full panel. But 9 out of 10, I'm really not adding dimension to my cards. I'm really just using glue or a tape runner, because I add in solid cardstock. Excuse me if you heard that, I just took a sip of my coffee. Okay. So one of the things that I've been focusing on when it comes to the simplicity is 6x6 pads or 8x8 pads. They're very simple to do a standard A2 size card base, which is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and mine are usually top folding. I have looked at a 12x12 paper pad, but that's when I created, I think that was my second video, and I created a puzzle for the holidays to add into your cards, by all means. But what could we do with 12x12 pattern paper? We can do a lot. So this is one that I found in my stash. I don't know if it's available anymore, so please use what's in your stash. And we're going to get started with this now that I'm done gabbing. Of course, I'll gab throughout. So yes, this video will be long. This video will be gabby. So if that's not for you, there's, I'm sure, other videos. Okay. So this I found in my stash. There's 32 pieces. It's 160 GSM paper. Now, I looked at my computer off to the side here to convert this. So this is about 100-pound weight for us, but it's text. It's not a cover. So it's not a super thick paper. Okay, so there's difference between text and cover, and I'll have another video when we go over paper, because that'll just take us into another realm. So this is by Do Crafts or Do Crafts Paper Mania. It's the capsule collection, and it's called Midnight Blush. You can see all of these papers have an ivory feel to them. Some black, some white, some grays. I'm sure I looked at this and said, oh, this would be great for a journal because of the feel for it. But I wanted to pull it out. Now, you can see pages are 12 by 12. So what I did was I cut off a 3.5-inch strip from each of these pages. So we're really not going to use the entire sheet. By cutting off 3.5, that is going to take us down to an 8.5 by 12 piece of paper. Okay, so lots of options can still be used for a journal if I wanted to. These are just some of the papers in there, just to get a feel of what this color looks like. Now you could be asking, why did I cut 3.5-inch strips? We are going to make slimline cards. Why not? We don't have to be stuck or in line with just making a standard A2 size card base. Because the 12 by 12s just have a slighter, in most cases, the print, the pattern that's on these is going to be a little bit larger. That's okay. Your slimline cards are larger. The slimline card bases that I usually cut, I grab an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, which I'm grabbing one right now. And what I do is I cut off 4 inches on the long side, on the 11-inch side, which then means this is 8.5 by 7 inches. All right, so 8.5 inches this way, and then 7 inches this way. So when I use my trimmer, I'm just cutting off 4 inches, which will give me the 7. 7 plus 4, 11. And then while it's sitting with the 7 inches staying horizontally, I will score it at 3.5. So now I have a 3.5 by 8.5 slimline card. What then happens is from this one piece of 8.5 by 11, I can get a 4 by 4 card and a slimline card from one sheet of paper. Again, to maximize my paper as much, excuse me, as best as I can. Because that's what we want to do. I mean, let's face it, lots of paper, lots of investment when it comes to this. So let's get the most of our paper. So again, when I'm making a slimline, I always keep these, I score them, I put them away, and again, I can get my 4 by 4 card bases with a slimline base. And you can see here, these are my 2 cuts. So this is the slimline. So this is 8.5 by 7, and I score it 3.5. So when I fold this in half and run my paper creaser down, there's my slimline. And then it's actually 4 by 4.25. So when I fold this over, I now have that card base. And I'm okay. Now I can either make this 4 by 4 and just cut off this 1/4-inch piece, or I can leave it that way and I would just have a different border. So again, I do get 2 card bases from one sheet of paper when I'm making a slimline. And that's exactly what we're going to do with this paper pad. So you can tell with just cutting one 3.5-inch strip, again, I'm going to get the different bases for these two. Now, I only grabbed 8 sheets of 8.5 by 11 pieces of paper. So I'm going to be making 10 slimlines and 10 4 by 4s. Let's see where we get with just having a 3.5-inch strip from each of these papers. Let's see if we use them all. So that will help us gauge exactly how many cards we're going to get. So here are my card bases. I'll get those set aside. And here are these card bases, and we'll get those set aside. Here are the rest of my strips. So you can see I've got all these different choices, and I even cut one that had a frame on it. Let's see what we can do with that. I'm going to set this aside here. Now, remember, whenever I do the simplicity and I'm looking at the pattern paper, one of the things I do is I'll pull 2 to 3 solid pieces of cardstock, just solid colors. Now, again, I am not using a cover weight type of paper. I am using the Recollections paper. Recollections is a 65-pound cardstock. It's very reasonably priced. You can usually get a packet of like 100 to 200 sheets in a rainbow with different colors. And tell you what, I'll be right back. Sorry about that. And I wanted to go get them. So you can see what's great. You get 50 sheets. They are 65 pounds. Okay. Again, it's a nice weight, but I love this weight when I layer. And that's what I do when it comes to the Simplicity series. I cut the different shapes. I cut the different dimensions. And I use this to layer. So what I love is you get shades of red. They have red, aquas, and blues, and purples. Just every color that you can think of. And there's usually 5 colors. And you get 10 sheets of each. These are always going on sale. Regularly, I believe these are $4.99. But sometimes you can get them on sale, 3 for $10. Or 5 for $10. They get them for $2. So I am a fan of these for layering. So whenever I do my mats, this is what I'm using. Very much so. Now, my favorite craft is their craft. I love it. I think it looks like a paper bag. I love the color of it. This is what I make my covers for, my journals, and so forth. And then they have these packets here. So 200 sheets, and you get every color in the rainbow. And I just don't know what number is you're getting. So 3, 6, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. So 25. You get 8. I believe you're getting 8 sheets per color to get to the 200. But look at all the colors right there. And I think this runs like $14.99. And you can also get it on sale. So by all means, you can, if you want to build up your stock, by all means, you can get these. You get more and you get multiple colors, and they're beautiful shades. Or you can just get your basic colors, but even still, there's a nice wide range in here. So that's what I use for matting when it comes to this. All right. Great price point. I wouldn't recommend that paper for your card bases. It is too thin. And again, I'm going off into paper here. So let me know if you want a video if I break down paper like there's no tomorrow. All right. So for this collection here, I'm looking at my craft, an ivory, and what I'll do is I'll move it down here, and a black. These are the colors that I'm going to use to mat these as here as well. All right. These are the different shades. Now, you can change this up. Instead of, you could put a white in here. And you can use that. It'll make these stand out more. You could add a 4th color. Why not? If you wanted to, instead of the craft, go with a gray. And then you can see that'll just pull out your grays. You could also go with colors. These are warm colors. So why not a warm aqua? It would just bring this out a little bit differently. You could go with a green. I mean, this would be really pretty because it's on the vintage side. If you're looking for a regal look, why not a red? Look how that makes that pop. Or a deep maroon. And then, of course, you could really tone it down and go with a pink. All right, you can keep the craft. I mean, there's so many possibilities that you have. Sorry, I had to bend down and pick something up there. I'm going to stick with the craft, the ivory, and the black. Okay, that's what we're going to do. Now, I am going to take this over into a voiceover because I want you to see the whole process. I want you to see how I'm going to cut these down, how I'm going to trim them down, where we're going to get to, and all the different shapes that we're going to come out with. All right, but this is just the start. This is what I'm going to work with. You can see here, we've got so much more when it comes to strips. I don't know if I'll use them all, but we'll see. So let's go over to the voiceover, and once we're done, I'll come back live, what I refer to live. Okay, so I've really sped this up, as you can see. Wow, who knew I could move that fast? Would it be awesome if we could move this fast in life? Think of the creativity we could have. All right, enough of that. So remember, a 12 by 12 piece of pattern paper gives us a larger area for your design, whether it comes from the patterns, whether it comes from the total aesthetic of what that picture is showing. Now, that doesn't mean, though, when it comes to a 12 by 12 piece of paper, that you're automatically going to have large images or a large design. You can see in the paper that I've chosen, there are some smaller designs, there's some larger designs, so you get a great mix. Now, what I did was from each of the 12 by 12 pattern papers, I cut a 3.5 inch strip. So these strips are 3.5 by 12. And what I've just done here is cut off 3.5 inches on the long side. So now I have a section that's 3.5 by 8.5. Now you could simply stop there and take that panel and put that to the front of your card base. Now in this case, my card bases are cut by 8.5 by 7, and then I score along the 7-inch side at 3.5. There go, the front, 3.5 by 8.5. I like that size for a slimline. You can go 4 by 9, but then you're really taking up a full sheet of an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper. By cutting it, excuse me, 8.5 by 7, you have that 4 inches that you've cut off, the 4.5, or excuse me, the 4 inches by 8.5. And you can just simply trim that down to be 4 by 8. Now you have the perfect 4 by 4 card bases. So I'm getting 2 card bases from one piece of 8.5 by 11 piece of cardstock. So again, getting the most out of what we have. So I've got my pieces cut down. Now I'm just having fun mixing some up. And again, I'm just letting my eyes go with it. These are very simplistic designs. I did choose background papers. I chose a black. I chose my favorite craft, which is from Recollections. I just love that color of craft cardstock. It's close to a true paper bag. And then I did choose an ivory. You won't see too much of the ivory. The ivory just looks off to me. I probably should have grabbed some of my coffee dyed paper. That would have looked absolutely gorgeous with this cardstock. But again, just cutting strips, looking at the patterns, can I fussy cut some of those patterns? And you'll see me doing that in a section coming up. Can I layer the pattern papers amongst themselves? You're going to see that as well. You don't always have to use your solid cardstock. Now remember, when it comes to the layering that I do like to use the Recollections value packs, whether it's the 50 sheets where it's just all one shade, different shades of reds or aquas or blues or greens and so forth. But they do have this huge rainbow pack. I think you can get like 200 sheets in there for like $15. To me, that is a great deal. Is it good for card bases? Absolutely not. I do like to have a good, thick card base because 9 out of 10, my card bases are top folding. And when you have a top folding card base, you know, you've got that A shape on your table when it's sitting down and it can flatten out. If it's a good sturdy card base, and I do like to use a 110-pound card base, and again, it's a cover weight, not a text weight. There's a difference. it will hold itself and it'll stay in that A shape. But I love the Recollections papers for layering, to create those mats, to create those different layers. They are perfect, and they don't add so much bulk to your card. It's something we've got to think about when we're mailing our cards. The more layers we have, the more weight we're adding, the heavier our card gets big, and then we got to charge all this postage. So you can see how it's a vicious cycle for us crafters. We got to think of everything. Think about it. Not only do we have to think of what we're creating, we got to think of what we're charging for the card. Yes. So here, back to the video, now that I've rambled. You all know that I ramble. So here, I cut a lot of strips from those scraps that I had from my previous cuts. Let's use them up. Added some tape runner to a piece of copier paper, very lightweight copier paper, and just added strips of these pattern papers. And I'm going to use my long shears just to trim that down. I have that piece of copy paper set at a certain dimension, and that is going to be, more than likely, I have that cut 3 by 8 so that I can add all of these mats in behind it, or one mat and then have the white border from the card base itself. Remember, we can use the card bases as a mat as well. I mean, why not? We don't always have to cover that full front. And that's exactly what I did there. Now, of course, at the end, I will go through the cards that I made so that we are not at warp speed. Yes, this is, but I wanted you guys to see everything. When it came to this section here, from the time that I started cutting those 3.5 by 12 strips until I was done putting these together, it was about an hour. And I believe I put together either like 9 or 10 cards when it came to this. But I had fun, you know, just playing with the different designs and what you can get. Again, I deal a lot with squares and rectangles. If you should have a circle die, you could get into circles and have those cuts. Or if you're interested in getting card making, again, let your paper do the work for you. That's why we collect it. That's why we love it. That's why we hoard it. We pet it. All that fun stuff when it comes to our pattern paper. I love pattern paper. Oh my God, do I love pattern paper. Oh, it's an addiction. We should start a group. Oh my goodness. Yes, paper hoarders are us. But there's so much you can do. I do like the dimension of a rectangle, of a square, of a strip, elongating that, creating those different textures. But if you're interested in this and you really like the concept of paper and building your card fronts with those, you happen to have a die cutting machine, again, we can minimize ourselves. We could just stick with our paper, a paper trimmer, and a circle die set to give us those multiple, like the infinity die sets by Hero Arts, a square set, a rectangle set, a triangle, and that's all you would need. And you can create beautiful cards. You don't always have to stamp. I'm one, you know, I like note cards. You know, you don't have to have a sentiment that's added. And if you hear that, that would be my cat purring and nudging me. Yes. This is Max. Say hello, Max. Hello. But we don't always have to stamp. We don't always have to color. Again, I'm sure we have so much in our homes that we can incorporate it onto our cards. If you have string or yarn, let's incorporate that. If you have acrylic paints, why not incorporate that? That acrylic paints can create beautiful backgrounds. And all you need is a paintbrush. Or do we remember finger painting? Who doesn't love finger painting? You know, just getting inky and having fun with it. You can see here I did a fussy cutting on another piece. And you know, I get it down onto the mat and I'm just not crazy about it. There's something there that's just throwing me off. Not crazy about it. How can we fix that? Very simply. We can cover it up. Keep that layer there. I'm going to pull in a couple strips of craft cardstock. And I'm going to put some pattern paper on top of that and have fun with it. Again, enjoy the process. There should be no stress. Remember, Let's get back to the basics of card making. Let's get back to where we all started before we became obsessed. I'm guilty. I am guilty. I'm raising my hand. I'm raising both of them. Absolutely. But again, we can just have basic supplies and create our cards. Maybe you want to try watercoloring, but you don't want to get into the different watercolor palettes. You don't know which one. Crayola makes a wonderful water palette. And Christina Werner does wonderful videos showing how to make magic from a Crayola watercolor set. So again, let your imagination take over. That's what this is all about. And it doesn't matter. I've heard a couple people say to me when they email me or contact me, well, I'm just using paper. How creative can I be? Oh my goodness. Let your imagination have fun. Our imagination is a wonderful thing. It creates our inspiration. It allows for us to create. It gives us that mechanism to say, what happens if I do this and this? YouTube is the other phenomenal aspect. To watch these videos and to watch all of these creations that people make. I love it when I watch a video and I'm watching someone and I'm saying, that is really ingenious. Absolutely. So continue to try, continue to grow. But I can't stress enough, enjoy this process. It is a wonderful process. I have to admit that through our challenging time that we're all going through, this journey that the world is facing right now, crafting and being creative has really helped me to get through this. There were times, whether you were one that was at home or you were one such as myself, I am part of the essential work pool. So going in every day and knowing I was doing the right thing and knowing what I was doing was helping and being part of that, you still had stress. The unknown. When we don't know, we kind of go crazy. But the beauty of unknown, of being creative, is what you see, the art that you've created from it. Because remember, everybody, and I know for those of you that have seen my videos before, we all create art. And it's beautiful. Okay, so that, while I sped up that section, I was actually making those for about an hour and 15 minutes. Now again, remember, from a 12 by 12 piece of paper, I only cut a 3.5-inch strip. Now, if you wanted to save some paper, you could have cut them to be 3.25 or 3 inches, since the way that I cut my card bases for Slimlines is 8.5 by 7, which gives me both a Slimline and a 4 by 4 card base. So again, depending upon how you want to, cut your papers. So I'm okay trimming because I never know what I'm going to do and how I'm going to do it. But you can see, cutting strips, you can create great backgrounds. I mean, each one would be different. Each one would be unique. You could make an entire set of just these. And they're beautiful to open up and write your message. Say hi instead of just signing. Sometimes I feel when we put our sentiments, and again, this is just my opinion, oh my God. I mean, don't get me wrong. I use the die cut sentiments. I use the stamped ones. Absolutely. But for something like this, you could actually write more, happy birthday, enjoy your day. This is a special day because it's all about you, and then sign your name. So you could have a whole collection of these. And again, just cutting 1 or 2 strips from each of your 12 by 12 papers. This paper here just had a design. Why not we fussy cut? Grab your scissors, fussy cut along it, and then frame it on top of that piece of paper. A great bow would look lovely on this as well, or just keeping it just the way that it is. would make it, it keeps it absolutely gorgeous. Same thing with this. Keeping this border, moving it up to the top, it just gives it a different look. We have two sides of a border going on this one as well. Again, taking your piece large and just having pieces on each side to accent it, and then center it onto your card base is another great way. But you can also have fun with your cardstocks, and I love this. For some reason, I just enjoy this. You know, looking at your papers, cutting out the strips, using the papers themselves to back if they have that much of a contrast, and then simply just putting your solid strip behind, you get this great detailed for the front, and you can go straight onto your card base. Now again, I chose Slimlines this time. You can use the standard A2 size card base. Just shifting your two stripes, because I have a border on this side and I have a border on this side, but just shifting those stripes and making them stand out, you get a wonderful difference. Or doing the same thing without it and putting them on an angle. You get a different look. Again, a whole collection just on strips would be a great set to give somebody. Here we just have strips and rectangles and squares being matted. Again, I use the mat to separate the patterns. This way they're visible. This here just met in the middle after I had those, so it looks like now it's a piece of lace that's wrapping around your card base. And then this one, I think this one's my favorite. You know, it just make it look like it's being woven. You can keep your pieces large, have your bases, and then cut your different strips on top. Again, to give it that edgy feel. For those of you that have seen my videos before, I do like the edgy look. Something different, not 90 degrees. But if you're that person that loves 90 degrees, make it 90 degrees. Why can't these go straight across the pattern paper? Absolutely. You could have thinner strips that could go across the paper. So again, let your paper do the work. And again, just because it's 12 by 12 doesn't mean that we can't use it. Just make your card bases larger. I know my local Michael's sells card bases, especially when they go on sale. You can get like 50 of them for $5. And they're 5 by 7. That is awesome. So you could have a lot of fun using up your paper on a larger scale. Again, usually the patterns for 12 by 12 are a little bit larger in size. That's why they can work for your slimline size. Have a different slimline. Why can't, you make, just the different sizes and the different cuts of paper that you have? So again, the possibilities are endless. Just because the pattern's larger doesn't mean it can't go on to a smaller card base either. Again, just have fun with it. Try to create those differences. And again, in 1 hour, just having fun, we were able to create, I believe I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I have 10 card bases here in a beautiful set that will be a great gift for somebody come time for the holidays or their birthday. So I'm already a step ahead. I do hope you enjoyed this. I hope I gave you some tips and tricks and maybe even some inspiration to start digging into that paper that you just can't seem to cut into. Again, paper, adhesive, card base, and something to cut with is what you need to create beautiful cards. You don't have to stamp, you don't have to color, but just letting your paper do the work can get you to where you want to be in card making. I do hope, as I said, everyone enjoyed this. If you have any questions, please make sure you leave those down below. I'll try to look for this collection. If it's available, I will have it listed down below. If not, again, use what you have. By all means, use that up. That's the goal. Everyone, please enjoy your day. Smile, giggle. It does help. I find it does as best as what it can. But most of all, 2021. Again, I'm calling it the year of the creator. So always, always be creative. Till next time, guys, take care.